What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to another Reviews Corp podcast. I'm your host, Red Devilos Reviews. We got a new setup for today. My good friend Unity is not available right now. He's in vacation, so he'll be back by the end of the month. But right now, I got my good friend Ed, also known as Shaq from Trikage, here to hold down the fort.
Yes,
What's up,
sir.
Ed?
Yes, sir. I've been preaching the greatness that is X-Men '97. I told Soham about it. And Soham said he'd get to it. It took a minute because I was watching it. Like, this is one of the only shows like I was actually on the edge of my seats for, because they dropped episodes every week, like how it used to be back in the day. Because usually
Right.
shows nowadays drop a lot of like a lot of episodes. Like Invisible does that too. So I think it built up a lot of like I think so.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
yeah. Uh, but yeah. Also, it's a throwback on my old channel, on my old videos. Shaq and I used to have a lot of videos of the two of us just talking about different videos. So it's a throwback to some of our Red Devilosa and YB podcast members of the days. But yeah, but before we get started, just a quick reminder: subscribe to another Reviews Core podcast. That's where we archive these videos. We have a Spotify of the same name. All of those are linked in the description down below. You can also subscribe to Trikage. That link will be in the description down below as well. And yeah, but before we get started, we just had some breaking news. Uh, so I'm sure you know comic historian Shaq.
yeah, I know. Yeah, I know of his videos. I give him some of my comic logic. I think he did a video. It was either on the Krakatoa era or something of the X Men or something like yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah. So
or
just like
Krakoa. I said it wrong. I said Krakatoa.
Krakoa, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Yeah, just earlier, just a few, like honestly, like a half an hour ago, his wife went on his account saying that he passed away uh, in an unfortunate accident. Um, you know, Comistorian has done like a lot of voicing stories for multiple mediums. I know, like for myself, I used to watch like a lot of his New 52 era, like for especially like after Flashpoint. Um, yeah, so I it's been a very important channel to myself. I'm sure to a lot of other people as well. He really did like a great job of like building that interest in like comic medium, kind of like describing the stories in like in an engaging way with all the artwork and the editing. So yeah, it's definitely like a really big loss.
yeah.
And rest in peace, man.
I will say, compared to Saw, I'm kind of a comic newbie, and I kind of got into comics a little later, like high school, really.
Yeah,
Because this really came from, because I don't know, guys. I love the Flash. So the Flash CW TV show came out 2014. I got really deep into comics around that era. So
yeah,
yeah. So and when I was looking for information on the Flash and stuff like that and characters I enjoyed, a lot of like comic channels, like it's probably because it's like they're very I'm not gonna say dull, but like very like monotone with how they describe stories. So it kind of doesn't like draw you in. So I felt like he kind
yeah,
of he's very good at it. Like he's very like you're talking about engaging. I think like the ability to draw you in for stories that are like or videos that are 40 to 50 minutes. Like I, you know what I'm saying? Like I just yeah
yeah. I agree.
yeah. We'll see.
Uh,
Yeah, I dropped the link in the chat again. So like I like for my
that's all right.
and
What's up, Josen?
I wasn't gonna plug, but we should plug us. We're almost at 1,000 subs, so
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
yeah. So.
Uh, yeah, subscribe to Trikage. That link is in the description down below. And yeah, we are going to talk about Invincible. I'm not Invincible. X Men '97.
Excellent.
But yeah, is it as good as Invincible? I
Yeah.
feel like I
Well,
like Invincible more. Um, after going through it, I don't know. What do you think?
I think personally, so X-Men '97 is better than season 2 of Invincible. Barely, it's not better than season 1 of Invincible.
I can
Because
say that.
season 1 of Invincible was like peak fantasy. That like I will say that. But X-Men '97, it's so good that The new fans loved it. The old fans loved it. You even had LeBron James cap and say this thing is hard. And when LeBron James says something is hard, it probably is good, but he probably didn't actually see it. But it's like it's a very good show. It's a very good show.
So that is like a common question. So I have seen the '90s show, and Shaq, I don't think you have, right?
I've seen episodes. The thing is, I got in the comments a little late, so like I haven't really seen
Yeah,
a
yeah,
lot. So
yeah. I will say like a lot of it. I feel like it does a decent job like explaining things for the audience. Certain events like you don't really like the '90s show was pretty episodic in terms of its content, so you didn't really need to. It's like a bunch of adventures happen and then they end per episode, and then like the next thing happens, like that kind of thing. And then you'll have some two-parters, three-parters where like the necessary plot happens. That kind of stuff is like there. So in the '97 show, it's more serialized now. So like the story is kind of like is like
they
spread across the
they
season.
still have episodic episodes, which I think the worst episode of the season was episode 3, which was the little video game one. I thought that episode was trash, but
Yeah, I wasn't a fan of that one.
that was the only reason I don't think it like every other episode was, I think, really, really good. I think like the first 2, 5, and the last 2 are amazing. So
Yeah, I'd say one of the biggest things with the '90s show versus the '97 show is that one of the big things is like their animation styles are very different. Like the way things move, the way like even just down to like character designs. Like I feel like '97 is like a lot more engaging for today's standards. I feel like some of it is like outdated in that sense. I do like the '90s show, and I mean I'd recommend it. But like it's kind of like if you're going from '90s to '97, you should expect that there's going to be a difference in quality based on that
but
standpoint.
even so, like quality, I feel like they kept the same '90s art style. It just updated it for like
Yeah, I agree. Let me see. I have yet to hear anybody say they like the video game. Yeah, no. Yeah, it's I really like the show, and favorite year so far. And the boys season 4 is coming out. Yep. So yeah, that leads us to X-Men '97. So I guess it's a kind of a bit of a spoiler, but it's kind of known now. It starts off where it's a few months after where the original show ends. Where in the original show it ended with Xavier getting sent off by Lilandra to the Shire Empire because he was dying at that point, so he's sent off world. So I guess like one thing, Shaq, is like I guess like if you didn't watch the '90s show, it feels like might have felt like Xavier actually died, and you know, um, so like when you see him come back in later in the season, it's like it doesn't feel like it's like he's just back alive now, but it's not really like he didn't really die. He just went off world essentially. If that makes sense.
so for me, not actually seeing the fully of the '90s. I saw snippets of episodes and stuff like that. The '90s, I think it did a good job of basically like through like the characters of like Jean, Cyclops, like Wolverine, and even Magneto to an extent, like that he's dead, but it wasn't like, or I thought he was dead. I thought he was dead, but I didn't really. Oh, what's up, Le Cap? I didn't think it was that big of an issue, like what's called what is it, Charles Xavier being dead, because I feel like it just begs another question. Like it just really dragged on the story, and like we'll see with the plot, like how do they exist without him? Because Magneto's gonna exist because Magneto only heard his thing, but like he was the unifying force of the X-Men, and to have characters actually have to get development because a big reason, like people, I guess because the Fox movies did Cyclops so dirty, they thought
Yeah,
Cyclops was a terrible character. But like the amount of character, like the development he got in the show, and the effect that people had on him, like he was probably my favorite. He was definitely my favorite character of the show.
it is mine as well.
It was him and Storm. It was him and Storm.
So I do have one downside with Storm, but I'll get to that when we get to her solo episode.
Wait, what am I talking about? I'm sorry. Storm and there too. Gambit is the best character of the show.
Yes, for me it's Gambit.
Yeah, I was wrong. I forgot about him. I just seen him, but yeah.
Yeah. So first episode, To Me My X-Men, the iconic line is the title. So yeah, basically it's set a few months after the previous season, and as Shaq said, it's kind of like your Cyclops has to lead this new team without Xavier. Everybody's comparing him to as such, and it's like that kind of story. And I think like one of the big factors, like, so obviously like you start off with the scene where Roberto is captured by some racist.
Let's just say the alien or the mutant KKK. There's something like the brotherhood. It was like the brotherhood of like human right or like human some bullshit. Just mutant KKK. Right?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. So basically, they're saying their rhetoric, and then Cyclops, Storm, Bishop, they all come in to save him. And in the meantime, they notice that there is they have Sentinel tech. Seemingly, these small time guys just have like this uber powerful tech, and they need to figure out why. So they go to the person that killed Professor Xavier, which was Henry Gyrick, and he was basically They use Jean to probe his mind, and basically like see that I believe Trask is out in the desert, and like they need to stop him.
Yeah, with the Master Mold. Also, we're not going to gloss over that fight. That fight is iconic for Cyclops for many reasons. Like another thing I like what they show like in the show and others, unlike other shows, is showing that like Cyclops' lasers are not lasers. Like. You remember when he was doing the hand-to-hand combat, the CQC, and then he was sliding on the floor with the optical blast because it's a punch. Like, right. I've never seen that like for like mobility. Like he does
like
this and like
good use of creativity.
Yeah, that was a great use. And we're gonna see in the show a lot of their people's abilities have a great use of creativity, because when we get to the desert, Storm does something which I well, maybe she's done this in the comics. I've never seen this before, but so.
Yeah. So there were like instances where Cyclops would use his concussive blast to like move his angles or make his hit more powerful if when in his punch. So so it was some really good uses of that. He uses another cool tactic when they go into the desert. So after tracking down in the Sahara Desert. So they do blow up the ship, and like that's where you get the next iconic part where Cyclops, instead of using help to get down on the on Earth, he chooses to
he does a superhero free fall. He does a superhero free fall and takes his glasses off and lowers the intensity of he lowers the intensity of his blast and falls down slowly, basically with the blast like keeping him to where he's not free falling, but it's just getting lower and lower and lower, and then he superhero lands. Like I've never seen him do that. Now, you more into the comics, like especially with the Marvel, because I've only like
So there are some creative uses of his optical blasts from the comics. I will say that like obviously like when you see it in animation, like you're obviously going to appreciate it more because it's how it's visual and movements and all that stuff with music and all that. So yeah, it's like he could do things like that. I've just never really seen anything like that done before. But yeah, I mean that just goes down to like, his eye blasts are like concussive. So like there's a lot you could do with it if you just think about the physics of that. So yeah.
It also shows you that a lot of these shows that are coming back are by people that make the shows are actually fans of the characters, because they're thinking about like these are possibilities for their abilities and how they would look on screen, and like showing us like I'm a slightly newer fan, but like also older fans like, oh, I saw a lot of like people in their 40s and 30s. Like I grew up on the X-Men. I saw the original show. I didn't know they could do this stuff. Like it's like it gives a bunch of creativity. That's how you know like there was what just I was good, Kareem. Like that there was an intense care that took into creating like the show. So
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, not just the action stuff, but like obviously like you had like your interactions, like you know,
we're gonna talk.
basically, yeah.
Speaking of interactions, episode 2 and further on, Magneto was right. We're gonna talk about that. We're gonna talk about we're gonna talk about how he might be one of the best portrayed. He's not really even a villain. He might be one of the best portrayed villains I've ever seen. He's not even really a villain, to be honest. But the characterization they gave the Magneto was insane, bro. Like
That's all right, Kareem. Yeah, see you soon. Yeah. Yeah. So some things that are going on in the background. Cyclops and Jean, they're expecting a baby, and you know, as of right now, they're kind of like contemplating on what to do. Whether one like just to if they should retire and just let the rest of the X-Men take care of the team as they go on. Which Cyclops doesn't really want to do that. Jean is kind of hoping that the baby ends up human instead of a mutant, but you know some things going on back there, as well as you know, as we talked about after the whole fight with you know, the team beating Bolivar Trask and his Sentinels. And then you were talking about Storm's use of
her powers. Now,
her powers.
this is one of the. This is how you know this show is goated. Wait, hold up. I gotta do something real quick, but I'll be right back. I have to take something out the oven. Okay, I'll be right back.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So you know, some other stuff going on. So in the world around this, so like people are starting to give more sympathy, or at least like they're trying to, you know, see more of the perspective with mutants from the side, like the you know, X-Men are still continuing to do the mission of trying to defend mutants and humans alike, and Xavier's, you know, death is they're trying to get the X-Men more legally sanctioned by the UN in some regard. So, you know, so they're trying to use like they're kind of like developing the characters around the world, like politically speaking, like to try to make mutants more culturally accepted. And yeah, so when they do, you know, track
Okay.
when they do track the
so yeah, I'm back. So yeah. So as soon as when they do track down Oliver Trask or Bolivar Trask, they apparently there's a master mold facility which they thought they had blown up or something like that. This is probably something from another season which I didn't understand. I didn't really get, but I didn't really matter because obviously I knew evil guy, racist, creating Sentinels. We know Sentinels hunt down mutants, and they start fighting the mutants. And it seems like they might get a little overwhelmed. And then we have one of the best quotes of dialogue in the entire show, where Storm is not even in this fight, and then all you hear is what you call it, Cyclops say, "Give him the forecast," and then what you call it, the music shifts, and then like the music shifts, the winds are starting. You start hearing thunder. She walks down like a goddess. Like she starts saying like this narrative of like the relics of hate of the past and all this other stuff, like awesome real like
Shakespearean,
also real Shakespearean like African goddess type stuff. This is what I'm talking about. The stuff she's used her powers. She used the electricity because she uses lightning, the electricity right from the storm cloud to shock the sand because sand under intense heat turns into glass, and then she makes a tornado out of glass and destroys all the Sentinels. And why this? They're talking about Omega level threat detected. Omega level, like they know they're fucked. They're robots. They don't know, but they know. You know what I'm saying? They don't know, but they know, right? Omega level threat detected. And then she sucks them up in a tornado with it's like glass shards that are just ripping apart these robots, and it's like, why? Maybe Storm has done this before. I've never seen that.
Yeah.
I've never seen that type of creativity or power. Like I've seen like the general.
It's like that's like the thing about animation versus like live action in particular is like it's just so like animation you can do a lot with that. Obviously like there's budget to consider with animation too, but like when you compare it to like live action stuff, you just don't really get to see things like that. Like as you mentioned, like lightning bolt to sand heats it enough to the point where it turns to glass, then turn that glass into with the tornado. So like that's just kind of stuff like level thinking that you can't really fathom for like a movie. But yeah, it's like that's why like I feel like that's why what I hope is like when they do have like the new adaptation of the mutants moving forward, they do consider some of these like innovative ideas that the animation has like provided to some capacity.
And I don't think that's even that. I guess you would say fantastical because it's based in
Yeah,
science. Like I feel like I've seen tornadoes with debris before, but just never in the
yeah.
form where they were.
Cyclops like laser thing is probably a little bit more.
Yeah, the falling from like
Yeah,
orbit.
that might be a little crazy, but like
Yeah.
I think the weather stuff should be too bad.
Yeah.
But yeah, after this, because like the X-Men are kind of having their own disdain because of like Scott and Jean kind of want to leave, but the rest of the team like don't really want them to leave. Then after this mission, they start to check out for basketball, saying that they are going to possibly move on. But it turns out somebody is trying to go into Xavier's office. Turns out it was Magneto, and Magneto says,
and as I'm talking about Magneto getting all this characterization, it also sets up like why did he do this? Because when they Magneto's in his office, why is he in his office? Oh, is he trying to start a fight? No, Charles left me this school. Like, so, and you would think, being if you're an original X-Men,
documented.
Like why would
got the receipts?
Why would Charles Xavier, this is the genius of Charles Xavier. Why would he leave me? Why wouldn't he leave this to like Jean or one of his original students like Cyclops or Beast, who's been loyal to him, and especially when he got crippled and Beast was like doing all this? Why wouldn't he leave him to somebody that's like why would he leave it to like one of their greatest adversaries? It's just the fact where I guess Charles Xavier believed that because of my students can teach Magneto something and Magneto can teach them something. So that and because Magneto doesn't really have beef with them, Magneto has beef with how they handle situations that involve humans. And because Magneto, they're both for that. This is another thing, because I know they're not technically modeled after Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, but it just, as an African American, I just feel that way. So yeah. I know this is not true because I try to say this online and people get mad at me, whatever. I felt that way. And it felt like when Malcolm X and Martin Luther King finally came together on some type of things, it's like, we have different aspects of how we deal with things, but we both want the best for our people, like Black people in my sense, but like mutants in their sense. So the fact that Charles Xavier would do that, he had the foresight, which is Charles Xavier is a genius. He's a genius. He is a what is it? What do you say? I'm a teacher or professor near first or something like that. So he knew this was gonna happen.
Yeah. Do you So I guess this is like another discussion point I kind of want to bring up is like, because like it seems like online discourses don't really get the concept of mutants in general. Like, do you understand why people don't like mutants?
Well, this is I don't know why they obviously. So it's like that's the thing. So they don't like mutants, but then Spider-Man and the Avengers are fine. So I don't know. I think it's the fact that so for example, Spider-Man is bit by a spider bite, or Captain America is enhanced with some type of thing. And it's oh, these are just one-off situations that happen to people that make them extraordinary, that has nothing to do with it. But with mutants, it's different. Mutant is in your genetic code. Mutant is through evolution, right? So that's the whole the whole thing, we're gonna get wiped out. Because I guess if you don't like Spider-Man, right? Spider-Man saved you. They both save people, but Spider-Man had to get bitten by a radioactive bug in order for him to become extraordinary.
Yeah.
But with mutants,
Yeah.
I could just not have the X. I could just have the X gene and just be stronger than you. Like, I guess that's what people are thinking. I don't know. Like,
Yeah. So they do kind of give that explanation in the show as well. Like, and then like the comic explanation is just like mutants are the reason why people fear mutants is that mutants are born the way that they are, so they're genetically modified at birth to become, which in comics they refer, Homo sapien, Homo superior, which would be mutants. So the idea is like if people are being born with superpowers, then they could theoretically become the more dominant species at some point where they would overpower the regular Homo sapiens. And the way they classify other superheroes that are not mutants, like mutates, which are basically any superhero that was like they were
Spider,
genetically modified after their birth, like in some regards. So like
think
as
Spider-Man too. Yeah.
Spider-Man, Fantastic Four, Hulk, any of those characters. That's where they're treated differently in that regard. But it kind of comes down to like mutants identify themselves as mutants, and then like the whole like registry is like in there as well. So that's why people know who to hate and who not to hate. So it's kind of weird. But yeah, that's kind of the explanation as to why mutants are not liked. But yeah, there's only so much you could do with it, in some regard. But yeah, I was just wondering if it was clear in the show.
I don't think it was clear in the show because there's obviously, like, for instance, like the thing we see with Roberto in the first one is like these people, we just hate these people, and it's not really like explain why. And this is what we're talking about, characterization. Because if we go to episode 2 with
Yeah,
basically the White Knight, where Magneto has to earn the trust. This is why. That's why, like, Magneto's also a really good character in the show. He has to earn the trust of the team because he's the leader. He's a de facto leader. Uh, I've led my own teams before. Obviously, we've done bad shit, right? Charles Xavier gave me a possession of the team. Now, you guys don't trust me. That's obviously fine. I've done fucked up things to everybody on the team, right? So I have to prove to him that I'm not truly evil. That I really just wanted, like it's kind of like what is that? All's fair in love of war. Like, we all want mutants to achieve tranquility, happiness, whatever you want to say, but for the fact Magneto was like, I just took kind of aggressive ways to get to that point, right?
right.
So, and he's trying to show people that he's not truly bad. I truly did it for our people, and maybe I was misguided, but I wanted our people to like thrive. So,
Yeah, yeah. As you transition to the second episode, Mutant Liberation begins. Basically, this is the episode where Magneto is, proving to the X-Men that he is going to do what Charles said in his will. To continue his vision and into like saving both humans and mutants. And he shows us by refusing to kill the anti-mutant militants who, straight up just goes to the X Mansion and just tries to arrest him. Where you see Magneto take the helicopters and threaten to use it to slice them up, but like obviously he wasn't going to do that.
we also see, I think another impactful thing is when the anti-mutant is there, but also like the government is like, oh, he's a mutant terrorist, he's a super criminal, he has to go to this court, right?
Right.
And stand trial, and he's like, he agrees to it. Which, if you know, Magneto would never agree to shit like that, because Magneto, say what you want to say about him, he always feels like he's justified. Like, I'm doing this for my people. It's kind of like Doctor Doom. Doctor Doom never does anything for his own gain. He does it for the people of Latveria. He's doing it for the mutants. So he would feel like, I'm doing this for the mutants. Why should I need to stand court for just standing up for my people? It's kind of, and we don't want to get political, but it's kind of like the Palestine Hamas type thing. Like, it's kind of like the Israel thing. Like, I don't really have a side on it. It's kind of like that. Like where Magneto. That's why I think it touched so many people, because Magneto believes what he's doing for his people is okay. It's misguided, but he's only doing it for the benefit of his people. He's not trying to like become like the ruler of the world. You know what I'm saying? So,
right. And some of the so this is like, so this episode is kind of like inspired by the Trial of Magneto storyline. Same costume that is in that page as well. So there's a few things going on in the background. Obviously, Cyclops and Jean, they decide to stay after thinking about trying to leave until Magneto shows up. Rogue apparently had a thing with Magneto, which I'm not really too sure on
So
that.
I looked it up. So it happened because Rogue used to run with the Brother of the Evil, and apparently Magneto can make an electromagnetic force field, like basically the thickness of a condom over his entire body, so they can. She was one. No, I'm not. I'm the.
No,
Just,
yeah,
so in the comics, she's one of the only men that she could touch, but not really touch and not kill him or like drain his energy
yeah.
or power or whatever. So
Yeah, so the specific moment they're inspiring it by is like from Age of Apocalypse, which Age of Apocalypse isn't actually canon to the mainline 616 comics. So that's why it's like for me, Rogue's characterization in the show is a little off in my opinion, but that kind of gets more prevalent towards like episode 6 onwards. So I'm gonna leave it at that for now. But yeah, I mean, essentially, things are going on. Obviously, disdain is happening between the characters because obviously, it's Magneto. Can't trust that guy. But when he's sent to the UN, he's sent on trial. Then all of a sudden, there's all of these like rallies happening now, and then the people are asking like, why are people trying to attack? And it's like because you made the mistake of like putting a mutant on trial.
yeah,
How ironic.
they feel he doesn't deserve a trial. There's also he's kind of a fake recurring character, but a guy from the guy that was trying to attack Roberto, like the main guy, like I guess you would say the main
executioner.
The executioner, like so they take some of the Sentinel weapon and make like basically make a gun that like does damage to mutants' DNA and like makes it to where they can't like.
So
we don't know that. We see him tinkering with the Sentinel technology and making a rifle. We don't know what he's technically doing, but when he goes on trial and all the anti-mutant people come through, he comes in with like some fucking like you remember the Peacemaker show where his dad had the white knight suit or something. It was like something like that. So
so like executioner is basically they're taking they have inhibitor chips in the for the collars. So there's like a radiation that prevents the mutants from using their powers if they wear the collar. So the idea is like the rifle is like a concentrated amount of that radiation, so that if you get shot by it, you lose your powers. It could be temporarily, it could be forever, which at that point they didn't know how permanent the attack was, but we'll get to that. But yeah, so executioner. So this character is a little weird. So like he has a lot of fans online.
What?
Have you? I don't know if you've seen that on Twitter. People find his like dialogue is based. You guys whine about it. We're just the ones who choose not to.
So do these fans ride? What is it? Ford F-150s? Like, do they rock red like hats? Like what are what do you mean his dialogue is based?
No, I think it's pretty clear what it means. So you guys like sit around and whine about it while we just like sit around and take it, that kind of thing. So it's like, oh, that's base dialogue. Yeah, I'm surprised he has fans.
I didn't know he had that many fans, so I'm not gonna lie. I'm not like he just seemed like a regular bad guy to me. He wasn't even the main like villain of the show. So.
Yeah. And it's like it's weird because like I just saw like a post yesterday like saying it's like it was like comparing him and Soldier Boy. It's like the show wants you to hate them, but they make a point, kind of thing. So it's like, It's crazy. I don't know. I feel like it's just like post Elon Musk, like where anything could be said online.
You can have those opinions, but it's like now obviously like so for instance, Avatar. I know we hate Corp. Corp did this right. Asami's father hated Benders. It was for the fact that they killed her mother, like that they killed his wife, his true love. Type. Did we even know what the executioner had some shit where like a mutant killed like somebody he loved? Like we don't even know that. So it's like
it's just straight up because you're mutants.
And it's also like like it's not like mutants are like in high ranking authority. Like they're not like mutants are not in like high like places of authority where they're like controlling everything. So I don't even like some of those points just don't make sense, bro. I'm not gonna lie. Like
Yeah, and it's like honestly, like the only reason Executioner was beating up Cyclops is because Cyclops is not opening his eyes. Because if he did, he would obliterate.
yeah, Cyclops wasn't
Executioner.
trying to kill him. Like that's
He wasn't trying to kill him. Yeah.
so that's so
Yeah.
crazy. I didn't know he had fans. I just knew I knew what he stood for. I didn't know he had fans like that. That's crazy.
Yeah. I feel like comparing him to Soldier Boy is also weird.
Yeah, Soldier Boy was like, oh.
But yeah, so yeah, this attack is happening. So another thing that I guess like with Morph's powers have been kind of weird.
That's another thing.
But I think this episode is fine. But I think it's when it gets to
because it's different. Yeah, because it's like he can kind of channel people's powers, but kind of can't. So it's like, is there a limit to this power? Like, and like, how strong are the people he can copy? Like, so can he copy Omega level mutants? Like, so for instance,
so he can't copy like Storm's like weather powers or like Jean Grey's like psionic powers or telekinesis. But it's like, but he could do super speed, which is like what I don't understand.
And Hulk strength, like what the fuck?
And Hulk like strength as well, because like in the original show, he did turn into Omega Red, which Omega Red has like he's also really big and has like these tentacles. I mean, like he also turned into Juggernaut in this season as well, which is like still super strong.
Because if I could turn into Omega level characters, I'm finding out what the Omega level reality warp is, and I'm changing my ability where when I turn into people, I get their entire fools. I get the strength of the entire moveset. Like instead of me, like I'll just warp what my power is in my DNA. Like I know he can't do that, but that's like something I would like. If he could turn into an Omega level reality warper or somebody that could change DNA or something like that, I'm just doing it to where the powers are like I get the full abilities. I'm like so.
Yeah, in episode 2, it's like it's pretty much fine. He turns into Colossus. He turns into
Psylocke.
Psylocke. He turns into Lady Deathstroke as well. So it's like these are like more physical like characters. So it doesn't really do that much. But like once he turns into Quicksilver, it's like where it's like all right, I don't know. I don't really know how this works anymore. Yeah. But yeah, outside of that, on the inside is like a little bit more interesting. Magneto and Storm. It gets to a point where, Storm has to jump in front of the laser beam and gets hit by Executioner's beam. And that's kind of one of Magneto's points is like, is this what you want? Like to see us like, you don't want us as equals. You just want us to lose our powers and not like.
We skipped over, and some people are not gonna like it. We skipped over Magneto when he was arguing in point. Like, did you like? When I talk about the characterization of a Magneto, like we're gonna get to that Storm point when he said when he gave his backstory in like 5 minutes. He said I was hunted. My family and me were hunted because we were different. And then when I was more different, the people that hunted me and my family teamed up with my family to hunt me. I was like, oh my god, that's
you're right.
That is so crazy. Like
yeah, that's why like with Magneto is like one of the. I mean, there's a reason why Magneto's like one of the top 3 Marvel villains of all time.
That is, and I'm not even trying to push the whole like the Jewish whatever you want to say, but like that's so crazy to think about that he was in it. He was, and he still has the what is it
the tattoo.
The concentration camp tattoo. Like from a character, how do you design a character where it's like he just can't like have people like that's just so sad, man. Like I don't like.
Yeah.
So it kind of justifies like his motives for like because we're never gonna be safe until we get our own. And it's like this has happened to me multiple times with multiple different races of people, and you would think the race of people that it had happened to wouldn't do this to me, but they still did it to me. I'm like,
that's why Magneto's great. Yeah. Um, yeah, it was a good addition as well. And yeah, so yeah, Storm lost all of her power. And she's obviously emotional about it. Makes sense.
Yeah, she's crying. She says she can no longer feel the breeze. But she talks about the breeze, and I guess it's like all like because I read somewhere in comics that like Storm is connected to like all like the ecosystems and like storm patterns of like the entire Earth, so she can feel them all, and she can even feel like solar storms and stuff like that. So it's like
Yeah,
she called it in the show. She called it the breeze. Like she can't feel the breeze anymore. So it's kind of like I think I compared it to when Swamp Thing says the green, like where he's
yeah,
connected to the
yeah.
yeah.
It's
So
a similar concept. Yeah,
yeah. So another thing which is insane is that pisses Magneto off, but he shows the most restraint I've ever seen him show. Where because he believes that the panel of UN judges set them up for this, right? Which one of them did, but that's not really what happened here. And then he
yeah.
takes them and the executioner and takes them into the
The
basically like
atmosphere.
atmosphere, almost outside atmosphere where they start getting chilled up. He has the executioner tied to a panel, and he just gives them a speech that's so impactful. It's like he doesn't kill them. He doesn't hurt. He doesn't even hurt them. He doesn't even like especially executioner for killing Storm or not killing Storm, but like taking her powers
Making
away
loser
or
power. Yeah,
like he's just talking about what do you expect it's a very like I can do this to you. I'm choosing not to. I am more human than you guys. That's what he's saying. Like you guys are human. You say we're not. I am more human than you. Like that's basically what he's saying. And he take and it's like a moment because when they're about to like freeze from being that high in the atmosphere and it being cold, he takes them back down. It's like
yeah, yeah. Yeah, Magneto shows a lot of restraint, and like this, like obviously, like you would see, like he probably could have a point into going back to being evil again, but like he's not going to do that. Trying to stay true to his friend's word, and all that. So yeah, and then meanwhile, there's another story going on in the background where Jean has to give birth. It was funny when Wolverine is like, "Who's there? Apocalypse? No, the baby. Oh shit!"
and then she used the mind powers the
To push people off the road.
no, to
Just
throw
like,
the keys at his face, like the keys. And,
yeah,
and it's also another thing because Wolverine. I know he drives motorcycles. But he's never, I guess, driven a car. So he's like doesn't know how to drive. It's also kind of a fucked up moment, which I think it was kind of. I think this is a little overplayed, a little too much. But I understand like the concept of like that they were at the hospital and she was about to give birth, and the doctor was I guess racist and didn't want to like
give birth to a mutant. Yeah,
yeah, give birth because he's like, oh, you people's powers can activate during like I don't know what's gonna happen. You might kill me or something. Some of the facts of that nature.
yeah. I
And
think, to be fair, it does become relevant in one of Cyclops' rants later, so it does make sense why they put that there.
yeah, but I feel like it was just overshadowed for what happened with like Storm.
Yeah,
I think it was like it's still racism. It's still like a form. It's like a little minute one. But then we see
yeah,
Rogue, which I didn't even know she could do this. I knew she could take powers.
yeah.
I
She
knew she
can
could
take
take
the
people's
knowledge of,
memories and their knowledge and skill sets. So she just basically like she says sorry, and she touches the doctor and takes all his knowledge and
yeah,
stuff like that to like be able to deliver a baby. And what I do like is when she took the powers and stuff, what you call it, she told the nurses to get all this stuff ready, and they were shook, and then they actually ended up doing it. Because so it shows you that's in the even like there were still some people like it's kind of like the whole bad apples analogy, like not all bad like do the bunch. There were still people in that hospital that still like helped her out to deliver um
the child.
what you
Yeah,
call Scott and Jean's great baby. So
yeah, yeah. Um. So yeah, they do. They do give birth successfully and name the child Nathan. And then meanwhile, things are so after Executioner was apprehended. Um, Magneto was pardoned, and now they decided to have a discussion about making Genosha as a part of the UN. So that was a massive win for the mutants. Um, and while and then obviously we also talked about how Beast tells Storm about how like the blast depowered her either
Yeah,
permanently or a long time. We don't know
yeah,
for
because
sure.
this is something that even Beast doesn't fully understand.
Yeah. So this is where she decides to leave the team and find a new meaning in life. And then meanwhile, it ends with a sudden surprise that Jean Grey ends up in the house, and the question is, who is the woman that just gave birth to Nathan Summers? Find out next time on Dragon Ball Z. And yeah, that leads us to
Goblin King
episode
or
3.
Goblin King. Yeah, episode 3.
Fire
Goblin.
made flesh.
So
Yeah.
it must be episode 4, which is the video game. I wanted that. So that episode. This episode is good. Episode 4 is terrible.
Yeah.
It's not terrible, but it's like it's just unnecessary and not even entertaining. But
Is that the real bald Korean?
that Jesus, that's a German guy that's just he just trolls. I don't like it. But
Interesting.
yeah. Basically for the Goblin Queen thing, basically at the beginning of the episode, Beast does some like what is it, carbon dating on like the genes, and apparently the one that's come back is actually older than the one that they've had on the team for the entire time. So basically, the gene what you call it the two genes are fighting over which one is the true gene, and the gene that's actually the clone is getting defensive. He's like, I've done all this stuff for you, well, and this and the third. So yeah, it is Jesus. So she doesn't even know because they're psychic and their memories are psychically connected. And we're gonna learn from Jean's perspective that when she gave birth, Jean even felt her give birth, and she thought she had given birth. So
Yes. So their memories are like intertwined. They don't
yeah,
know
they're
who
intertwined
starts and who ends.
yeah, psychically. So basically, the clone gene, or this is the gene that's dated or that's carbon dated younger than the other gene that came into the house. She basically is in a huff because Scott doesn't fully 100% believe her. Like Scott believes her, but not 100%, and just doesn't take her word for it. So then she takes their son and goes into the room, and then this is where we see a bad, but not really the big bad of the show. She's in the room with Nathan, and she's like crying, and she's like hugging her baby, and then the shadows start moving on the wall, and then we get to Mr. Sinister.
Mr. Sinister. So yeah, it turns out Mr. Sinister, he contacts other Jean, revealing that she was a clone, and the idea was he wanted to gain access to her and Cyclops' DNA by any means necessary. So yeah, so I guess one commentary. This is like a thing from comics too. It's like Mr. Sinister just has a thing for redheads, and helping Cyclops get redheads. I don't really know what that is, but I guess he's not complaining.
I thought
So
it was
that's
because
fair.
wasn't it like the combination of their DNA? Because he steals
Yeah.
DNA. It's like extremely like it's like the strongest mutant to have, like
Yeah, so basically, like having Jean is like a very powerful mutant. Cyclops is a very powerful mutant. What if their baby exists? So let's force that to happen.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of what he's looking for. And then obviously, like, which obviously, like, it gets to a point where, he kidnaps. Well, this Sinister takes control of her mind, turning her into the Goblin Queen, and then she gives Nathan to Sinister, and then she basically gives like a whole psychic horror trap for the mutants.
Yeah.
They all see some scary things going on.
They see a lot of their fears. Like Roberto's there at their mansion, and Roberto's biggest thing was he never came out to his parents about being a mutant, which is I guess you could use an analogy for like coming out the closet or like or like being gay or something, which is fine. I think that's fine, right? And
I always thought, yeah. My thing is like I feel like this is like a Sunspot like character in general. It's like because like I don't really have too much to say about Sunspot because he's kind of your insert character for the new audiences, I guess. I just feel like he's not the character to use. Like Sunspot's characterization is more involved in his racism because he's more Afro-Brazilian, and like that's really intrinsic to his character, and that's just not in the show. So it's like, and honestly, like his character is written more like Richter, which is a character that is more similar to what's going on. Like in fact, he was found because he was captured by terrorists, just like how they started off with Sunspot in episode 1, and then Richter's also gay as well. So I don't know. It just seemed like he seemed more the character to use over Sunspot in the show, but I can't really comment on. It's more of an adaptation thing.
I think it's fine because I will say I don't want like because I've heard this they don't want to like you can have push narratives if you want to push a shit ton of narratives. So I understand why they chose Roberto because I believe where his powers first activated he get like assaulted in a soccer match or something like that by like
like basically
lighter skinned Brazilians or something like
because
that.
Because he was black.
Yeah, it was darker skin. Yeah. So basically his whole conundrum is like coming out to his mom because him and his family are rich. And they own some type of fortune estate type thing. And his life is basically set up for him. And he doesn't want to mess up his life by coming out because he doesn't feel like his parents will actually love him or his mom will love him if she knows who he truly is, which is something he's always been. So,
and we'll get to that.
Yeah. So she sees that Gambit's just a cuck. I don't like Gambit. Like Gambit, I went from not like I remember like he's cool as shit. So I don't like him. Why are you worried about another nigga's meat? And then to like you're the greatest character I've ever seen. Like because his nightmare is seeing like Magneto and what you call it.
That's why I don't like them using this plot line. But that's like my problem is more towards Rogue and not really towards Gambit. But we'll get to that.
No, it's like but it's like that. Your biggest fear is having Rogue have sex with another dude, and you have to watch it. Like well, like that's very different. That's not very Raging Cajun. Oh, that's very different.
Yeah. It makes sense. But I have more problems with Rogue, but we'll get to that. But yeah, that's his fear. I mean, they didn't really do too much on the fear aspect. I mean, like Wolverine, I don't even remember what he's.
Morph was weird, bro.
Morph was
Is Morph gay? Like I don't know.
Yeah, Morph is non-binary. So yeah.
And he's always been that way, or did they change it for the show?
I don't know too much about. So, like in the comics, his name is Changeling. They changed it to Morph because they changed it back to Morph all the way back in the '90s as well. Because Beast Boy's real name is like Changeling in DC Comics, which is funny because Teen Titans doesn't even use Changeling; they use Beast Boy. So yeah. But yeah, I don't know too much about Morph's characterization per se, but yeah, I mean it's all right.
But his fear is like he's flirting with like Logan, who's taking a shower, and then that Logan tries to kill him or something. I don't like it's just
that's
weird.
Why I don't feel like it's about fear, but
like two of them were clearly.
It's weird, but yeah, it's weird because like Sunspots is directly a fear. I don't know, but then like
what was Gambit?
Well,
Gambit's
Gambit's, I guess, maybe. Yeah, it's kind of tough to say. I'm not sure if there was a point to each vision. But yeah. So during all this messing around, let's go. The Goblin Queen leaves. Morph tells the squad how to go. So back in the original show, Sinister actually took control of Morph as well. So he has like the PTSD related to that. So they go to find Sinister's lab, where Sinister basically is taking Nathan and infecting him with a techno-organic virus from the future, with this belief that it will make the child invincible. So here's my other thing about Morph. Before we get to the other stuff, is like Morph turns into Magic, which in the '90s show, Magic is actually a child in this universe. She was in season 4, season 5, so it was like really recent in terms of this timeline. So the way the magic he turned into was like a young adult magic, so that wouldn't make any sense for Morph to turn into somebody who's not an adult yet in this universe. So that's kind of a plot hole, but I guess it doesn't really matter if you didn't see the '90s show.
I think the whole point of Morph was just like we have a lot of characters we want to see, and he was really just like the cameo device.
He's
so.
the cameo farmer. Yeah.
Cameo.
Yeah, that was kind of my only note for that part. But yeah, so they basically take a team to go up against Goblin Queen. Cyclops is getting his ass beat. So then Jean is actually Jean is still like recovering from her, her sickness. But then she realizes that like Cyclops is like getting hurt. So she goes into Madeline's mind, and they both kind of just look at memories of Jean Grey, and kind of showing their origin as to how they became who they are. And yeah, so it got to a point where it broke the link to Sinister's control on Madeline, and then so that Madeline can go and save Nathan with Cyclops.
Yeah, but apparently, Mr. Sinister put something in a thing. I guess you would say a thing because for a check, and it was it's the old techno organic virus. So
yeah. It makes Nathan very sick. And then Beast is not able to do anything because the virus is coming from the future. So they ask Bishop to take him to the future so they can cure him. So they never really explained why Bishop was here in the first place.
Was he not in the original? Was he not in the original one?
He was in the original one, but he wasn't like an active member or anything like that. He had like cameos here and there. They did go into the future and met Bishop over there.
Oh, to be fair, I think didn't he say like his bracelet like malfunctioned and it was like wasn't working or something, or he didn't have enough?
Yeah. So it's like I could give some leeway, except maybe because there is like a few months gap between season 5 and 97. So it's like maybe he just came in during that time, and that's when the thing broke. I guess that one is okay. Forge is the one that doesn't make sense, but we'll get to Forge in a second. But yeah, that's kind of how. So that's kind of how it ends. Like, speaking of which, Forge meets up with Storm, and he says he promises that he can like restore her power.
Back.
Yeah. So the thing is, like, they put Forge in the future in the original show. Now the thing about that is like, so Forge is here in modern day, but then Forge also exists in the future, which I don't really know how that works. And then afterwards, in the post-credit scene, they have Forge meeting up with Bishop, which in the future, Bishop and Forge were friends, but in the post-credit scene, Forge doesn't know who Bishop is. So I'm just wondering, is there two different Forges or something like that?
But it also established that Forge and Beast were like really good friends too, because they're like both geniuses and isn't Forge's powers? Can he see anything? He can see stuff in his mind and create it, like, and he knows how to.
Yeah, Forge exists. Forge exists in the present. Yeah. It's just that the cartoon put him in the future.
So, but I'm saying, but in conjunction with his powers, though, like, because he can see stuff, anything he can and create it and like forge it. Couldn't it be like he made a time machine and just went to the future? Couldn't that have been like the logical explanation?
Yeah, I mean, it's more like it's just when is the question. Because when Bishop does find Forge in the post-credit scene, he doesn't know him at all. Where in the original, so this is more of a problem towards the original cartoon, because I honestly don't know why they put Forge there, especially since like they were being more comic accurate back in the 90s. So I'm not sure. I feel like they put Forge there for the sake of like, we want to put him in the show, but we don't know where to put him, so we'll put him in the future with Bishop and them. But then now we want to put Forge's relationship with Storm, because that's a comic relationship as well. But how do we get to that? Just do that. Hopefully they don't notice. But
Another thing. So I have a question.
it's not a big deal.
So is Forge Native American? He's always been Native
Yeah.
American.
Yeah.
I respect that.
Yeah, that leads us to Motendo.
This episode is terrible. It's not bad. It's not as terrible as I'm saying it is, but this shit is actually ass. This episode,
yeah. My biggest problem. Yeah.
No,
go ahead.
You got it.
My biggest problem is that I don't like how they split the Storm story with this, because Life Death is like a very big and emotional comic storyline of Storm, like where she lost her powers and she needs to relearn her purpose and eventually regain them to become, Storm again. And I felt like that is like a very impactful kind of episode that you could do. It's weird because it's called Motendo and Life Death Part 1 and Life Death Part 2. But my problem is that they took the Life Death storyline and put them in half of 2 different episodes.
So what I think it was, which is kind of nasty. I think they were trying to have a lot of characters coming into their own, and what their purpose was, because this one also had because the Motendo thing also had Jubilee and what she expects from her and stuff like that, and what she expects is becoming an adult because she's finally 18. Also had Jubilee was trying to push Roberto to use his powers and show off and stuff like that, so he embraces his his mutant side more. And also with Storm, worrying whether her life would have been easier if she wasn't a human, if she was human or not, and actually how much figuring out that her powers aren't only just her identity, not powers. Her identity isn't just around her being a goddess, but that's kind of what she was before. I'm a goddess. That's kind of Storm's thing. So I think they were trying to fit a bunch of characters. It's oh, you're not only this or you're not only that, and you could be so many things. I think they were trying to push that, which is fine. I just think the Motendo shit had if there was
my thing is there's no reason to put Motendo in here. I feel like you should just do the life death storyline.
There's no also because it's a video game and it's virtual and they can die, but it's they're they beat him, nothing else happened. That's what I'm saying. So it's nothing.
You don't feel nothing. They don't really grow. I mean, I guess
I think they grow character wise.
You have Jubilee kiss Sunspot at the end, so I guess there is a
their relationship grows. Sunspot uses his powers and stuff, so he kind of gets, because he wasn't using his powers before, so he kind of
yeah. My biggest thing is I just don't like the Storm part being intercut with this episode, because previous seasons used to have dedicated episodes to 1 or 2 mutants only, and you don't see the rest of the cast, and I'm fine with that. But I think so the difference, I guess, is previous seasons used to have 13 to 15 episodes. This one only has 10, and I don't know if there was a thing where maybe they needed to reduce the episode count and they wanted to get as much content as they can, so they decided to splice it in a way that they can have their material, but then some of it kind of had to get sacrificed, because there are some moments where I feel it feels like scenes are missing. I think it's more prevalent in the last 2 episodes, I would say. But yeah, I'll give those examples when we get to that. But yeah, I feel like the Life Death, because it's a very important Storm comic storyline. And I just don't like how they spliced it with 2 different episodes, one being Motendo and the other one was mixed with Charles Xavier's Shire quest as well. So it just felt like they didn't really Storm had a dedicated episode, but not really in that thing. And that's kind of my downside.
Her part of this episode was still really good though. So I mean,
yeah, it's good. I just I wish I could use more of the material that they had.
Yeah. My whole thing is it's probably Disney Plus. Disney Plus usually only gives their shows 10 episodes, so it's it's not at the end of the day so it maybe because it's only for Disney Plus. Another one came on public TV, and what I didn't like this episode is the Motendo them beating him had nothing the plot didn't move on from them beating him that's he was just an extraneous boss that they had to fight, which was whatever. So
Yeah. And then there's like that whole like the previous levels are things on my previous adventures that I did. So let's bring those memories back, I guess. Yeah, it makes sense, I guess, in the video game setting.
yeah.
Could be better.
But let's stop talking about this. Is probably the worst episode of the show. Let's stop talking about this fat motherfucker. But let's
Yeah,
talk about
Mojo, not much. We'll get to
not
remember it.
that yet. We still want to talk about would you because this is before Storm.
This is episode 5.
Yeah. So we gotta talk about would you think of the what is it the adversary the bird creature that was basically like causing Storm to fall into like I like this part of the thing a lot because it's kind of like doubt
Yeah,
and
yeah.
like how it feeds on like your insecurities and stuff like that. And like Storm always was this strong, but because she doubted herself and like her abilities, is like I think there's like the overall meanings of some of these episodes are just amazing. I like
Yeah,
like
yeah.
the adversary thing and Storm thought it wasn't a real being, but because it was real in her head, it became real and actually became like a monster that they had to defeat. Was like I think that analogy is just kind of like, especially with all the mental health issues people have. I think it was an amazing analogy. I feel like whoever
Yeah.
did this, yeah. So, how'd you feel about
Yeah.
it? Like
No, it's really good. Adversary is a common character associated with Forge in particular. Basically that whole like it's pretty much a representation of like everything negative about yourself. So like seeing that, obviously Forge gets injured, and all that. So Storm has to try and find a magical fruit to help cure his illnesses. So obviously like she is like so in this point they're kind of setting it up like where it's like, and that's kind of like my only downside on this is like I feel like the relationship is really rushed because it's like spliced in between 2 different episodes, so it's like you don't really get the sense that Storm and Forge are falling in love in that sense. But outside of that, it's like it's everything else that really works well, which is like, as you said, like adversary and like how it's playing an effect on Storm. Obviously, like in the first part, she's more like this is kind of like it ends with like Forge getting injured and then cuts to the next episode, which obviously is like which honestly like I feel like one of the you don't actually see this payoff until the next episode, like not even the next episode, the episode after, in episode 6. So I thought that was a little strange in terms of like because episode 5 is like completely dedicated to Genosha,
yeah.
which we'll get to.
Yeah, episode 5, arguably, I think it's one of the best episodes of like fiction I've seen in a long time.
It's my favorite episode.
This I think it's called is it called Mon Ami, which is remember it's called Remember Me, right, or something or
remember it.
Yeah, remember
the
it.
name's
Yeah,
Gambit.
so
Remember it.
Yeah. So this episode basically this is when I was like Gambit might be one of my favorite characters. Like this episode was so impactful, not for so many reasons. It was so impactful for the whole idea, like, because what happened in episode 2, where the UN is gonna like basically trying to like make Genosha its own sovereign state and have its own like borders, kind of like Latveria with like Doom, or like Wakanda with Black Panther. Like they're their own state. Like they can live. Like you're kind of seeing like there's a joy. There's like there's a
utopia in a sense.
yeah, utopia. Like this is going to be like if you're like an outcast because you're a mutant, you could come here. We don't have to. Y'all don't have to see us. We don't have to see y'all. We'll just we'll just be here, right? We also see I like that fucking Gambit got his balls together because throughout the entire episode, because they want to do a ball like to officially have Genosha join the UN. They want a bunch of people there from the UN and be on Genosha and have some type of ceremony. So Magneto wants to go there and he wants his +1 to be Storm. And so what you call it? Not Storm, not Storm. He wants his plus one to be
Rogue,
Rogue.
yeah.
My fault. Plus one to be Rogue. Plus one to be Rogue, and Gambit goes, and it's kind of like some shit where basically through the entire episode they're kind of debating between each other, like Gambit and Magneto for like Rogue's love, basically.
Right.
Also, we get one of the Reply was one of the best character, one of the most like joyful characters in the show. We get what is it?
Nightcrawler.
Nightcrawler, which
I
Nightcrawler's
like
reintroduction.
I like Nightcrawler a lot.
I like Nightcrawler too because he's always so upbeat and emotional. That's why I like this depiction of Nightcrawler more than like the Fox ones where he's like kind of Loomis. But like this Nightcrawler, yeah, I don't know why they flipped it, but this Nightcrawler is like a devout Christian, and it just so happens that he's always loved God, but like because of his appearance, they thought he was like a demon or a devil. Which, if you look at Nightcrawler, like unlike other mutants, he doesn't look human.
Obviously, that's the point of his character, to look like that.
Yeah, he has but he didn't let that affect him. He's just so joyful and he's so joyous, and he's so happy to see his friends. And it's like, I haven't seen you guys in a long time, and it's eerie. You feel happy, right? You feel like, oh, they finally made it, but you feel like the episode's not going to end like this, right? Like that's like there's ease of that. How'd you feel about it? Especially because there's also the scene where it's the mutant kids playing in the street and there's the music and stuff like that. So it's like it's kind of like a homecoming ceremony. Like how'd you feel about it?
Yeah, it was absolutely. It absolutely puts that perspective of like, this is exactly what Xavier wanted. This is exactly what, trying to get everybody together. You got, the UN is trying to put a mutant nation into the UN, and now you also got like a place where mutants can like pretty much live and be free and be who they are without being judged or hated or anything like that. And then you have all this like, obviously like with what you said, Nightcrawler coming back. I never understood why they make the Nightcrawler the cynic when he's a devout Christian who is like super joyful and happy. But I don't know. But yeah, Nightcrawler was very good. I also like how he always refers to Rogue as a sister, even though she doesn't really feel that way. But yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, so it brings up a lot of that. I think it's a good build up for what is going to happen in the end of this episode. So especially like I feel like, I mean, you're not as you were saying, you're like a comic newbie, but like, was it like obvious that something bad was going to happen when you started watching the episode?
I can kind of predict these things, but an episode like unless an episode ends like that, it doesn't like something like there's got to be like a good story writer is a good screenwriter. You can't, everything can't be peaches and cream the entire. I knew something was going to happen, so like I just knew it because the beginning of the episodes, everything like when you see them playing music and kids dancing in the street, it's like 5 minutes into the episode. Like I know this is not going to be the entire episode. If it is, this episode is going to be very boring. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah, I think it could possibly work if it was like that. If they do extend it to another episode, like if they had more time in Genosha, but like I think it for the sake of pacing, I think it made sense for where it was. For what they ended up with. But yeah. Meanwhile, things that are happening in background, you have Jean is still confused about the whole Madeline and Jean memories thing, which she does tell Wolverine, and Wolverine kisses him. They kiss. Yeah. But then like Cyclops like sees a vision of like Madeline kissing him, and then she gets mad.
Yeah. Gene's season is basically he psychically cheated on his girl. So I don't know how y'all feel about that out there, but like,
it's the same girl, just like clones.
Yeah,
but they're not the same.
Yeah. But they share the same emotions and the same like memories, and like are psychically connected. So you say, but anyway, we also get to see the council of like the council at Genosha. We get introduced
which
Emma
is like
Frost,
the Hellfire Club.
The Hellfire Club. Yeah. We get Emma Frost, Madeline. I don't know. I think was it
Sebastian Shaw.
Some of that. Sebastian. Yeah. Oh yeah, and then one of the ladies that's actually human, and he's like so they could have a
Moira
human
McTaggart,
representative. Yeah, yeah. So,
yeah,
but yeah, they're talking about a
so
gala
they're
like,
they're asking Magneto to be their ruler
be
essentially.
the yeah. And Magneto's like I usually don't like. Magneto's like because Magneto. That's this also what you shows how deep Magneto's character was. Magneto's an extremely strong mutant, and he doesn't even want the throne of like his mutant kingdom. Like
Yeah,
he just wanted to free his people. He didn't want to. He wants to lead his people to freedom, but he doesn't want to lead them after they are free. Which is kind of a crazy like scenario. Like I'll fight with y'all as your king, but I don't want to be king. I want you guys to
right.
vote for a king because I don't. So like
It's
so
kind of like MCU Thor for a while, yeah, in a way.
yeah. So
But
and then
yeah,
he finally concedes, but he only concedes if fucking Rogue will be his queen. And I'm like, all right, Gambit better not be sweet. That's that when I hear that when and Rogue is like deciding like whether she should choose Gambit or basically I basically like every brother out there where that has a girl and you're in a love triangle with a girl that doesn't know what she wants. Do what Gambit did this episode. When he figures this shit out, and and they're having that scene near the fireplace where he's throwing cards into the fireplace,
hearing the
and
bullshit.
basically,
It's like,
yeah, Rogue is like this is why we don't like Rogue. Rogue is giving him this bullshit about like I don't really know, and I met him, and she how we met, and we just clicked, and the energy was there, like all this bullshit, all the bullshit that women. I'm cursing a lot. All the crap that females tell guys of this generation, like I don't know where I am, and he was there when I was a longer, and he's my ex, like whatever, this, that, and the third. Magneto just basically says, "Screw it, I'm gonna be my own man," and it's like synonymous because he throws a queen into the fire because that was his queen, right? He calls Rogue his queen a lot of
yeah, that was
times,
very good.
and basically before Rogue can make the decision of who I'm going to choose, Gambit or Magneto, Gambit says, "Screw that, I'm not a second
Gambit's.
choice." And
I like how he uses like card references as to like I know when my hand is played or like things like that.
yeah, so I like that Gambit stood on his own instead of worrying about you messing with Magneto. I'm gonna do what's best for me. I'm just not gonna mess with you. We're still gonna be friends, but I'm not gonna try to engage in another like
Uh,
what was it?
so you do what's right, whatever justification you want. We'll still be friends.
We'll still be friends, but
Or
I'm not gonna no longer
yeah,
try to love you. I'm not gonna try to. I'm not gonna hurt because it's gonna hurt me trying to love you when you know that you're like just because I want to give my all to you, right? Because there's a lot of
yeah,
dudes out there. It's just there's a lot of dudes out there that want to give their all to a girl, but the girl is like split with other dudes. So he
yeah. And that's
finally
what.
makes
Yeah,
yeah.
it makes sense thematically. I just don't like it being with this version of Rogue, mainly because like if I factor in her 616 counterpart and they're using elements of Earth 29295 version of Rogue, which is where in that universe Magneto's like super good in that universe, and like Rogue is like has to bend over backwards to be with him and that kind of thing. So it didn't make sense to make it canon, but it's canon now, so I can't really comment on it. It's like, but this is like okay and tolerable. It's really what she does in episode 9 where I have a problem, but we'll get to that. But yeah, she does end up going with Magneto to the dance, and
They have a crazy dance where they're flying and shit. That
yeah,
dance,
Gambit just
that dance
slaps.
is so crazy. I'm so happy Gambit said "fuck you" before that. I'm so happy. Oh my god, I'm so happy.
Yeah, it's like I just hate it because like I do like Rogue and Gambit because like they're married in the comics. So it's like so it's just really weird that this was like the direction they decided to go. Obviously, like I don't think Gambit's gonna be dead forever.
I mean, we know he's not.
We already know he's not. So yeah.
I mean, that's a rumor. We're gonna talk about that, but
Yeah.
you also just spoiled it. So, oh my god, so
I mean, this is literally the artwork.
I'm he's chilling though. He's chilling. Anyway,
But
the
yeah,
dance
but
happens.
meanwhile, during the dance, somebody, so
Close.
Madeline Pryor
Yeah,
notices that something is wrong. There's some green flashes coming up on different sides of the island. Then some man comes through the door, telling his mother to look out or something like that. She doesn't know what that means. But before she could decipher what it was, she figured out it was Nathan that was contacting her. But to understand what she meant, didn't get to because explosion happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it turns out, and this is where we knew Magneto was right. It turns out that the UN, because we figure out later that somebody working on the UN is actually like this is like the whole. This is another narrative which they want to talk. The whole deep state where it's like somebody in the government is working with like the bad people or something like that. So they figured out where Genosha was and that there were going to be a bunch of mutants on the island, and they attack it with like some super Sentinel thing. You know what that Sentinel's called? Or
The Master Mold.
yeah, the actual Master Mode? Oh, okay. Yeah.
It's like an upgraded Master Mold, yeah.
So they attack it with the Master Mode, right? And basically it's terrorizing the city, it's killing mutants, it's mayhem, right? It's like, and it's just so funny because 5 minutes ago we were singing and dancing at a ball about to crown our king and queen of our new nation that's been, and now we're like fighting for our lives. And just seeing that disparity is just crazy because it's like you can, like, it just shows you how a couple minutes can change your life, because it's like you could be doing so well and then shit can just be terrible. Like, let's.
Yeah.
And then
yeah.
I was gonna say, and then it's a bunch of mayhem. The X-Men have to do what they have to do to save stuff. So you have Gambit on a bike, Rogue flying. You see Gambit trying to save the Morlocks, which is they were people. I didn't know this, but it's just anonymous because apparently Gambit is the original one that sold the Morlocks out. So him having to save them or whatever. So
yeah.
So I didn't know that, and then they're like doing like saving stuff and stuff like that.
Magneto's trying everything in his power.
Yeah, he's like throwing trains and throwing like using his force fields and stuff like that. And basically the Master Mode is too strong for just these standard mutants here. It just is what it is. They probably need their team, probably don't need as many things, right? And it just so happens that one of the Morlock kids, and we've seen that when Magneto has been freeing some of these because Magneto's been doing deeds of good. We actually didn't mention them. Magneto's been doing deeds of good in episodes prior to this. One of the good deeds, I said deeds of good. One of the good deeds he did was stopping basically like some hate group from attacking Morlocks in a sewer. And it's also one of my favorite Magneto quotes. Like, you don't believe they should live in your filth? Like that line is like it sounds corny, but it's like you won't even allow them to sit in your waste. Like your waste is too good for them. Like that type of like hatred is just insane. Like so he saves the Morlocks. Is like is a green Morlock kid. He's like, oh, you should come to my island. You won't have to live like this no more. I'll give you a place to stay. I'll give you food. I'll give you a life, right? And flash forward to this robot destroying the city, right? And Magneto, what's called Magneto's like trying everything he can. He's seeing the Morlocks die, and the one kid he promised he's not gonna let die gets got in the sight, and Magneto's like, there's a laser, and Magneto is like blocking it, and it's like his shield thing is breaking. And
Don't
this is
afraid.
just this scene is so amazing because he knows it's the end, right? Or from what we think is the end, right? And then he says, I don't think what is I don't want to say what is it? He
says it in German.
In German?
He said it in German. Don't be afraid.
Don't be afraid. And I just remember like I think we read a book in Anne Frank's diary. What is it? Night. Do you remember Night in high school?
Yeah.
Where where the only things the adults can do when they go into the gas chambers, one of the only things the adults could do. This is gonna sound so morbid. Oh my god, this is gonna sound so morbid. One of the only things the adults could do in the gas chambers was basically for the children is have the children have peace in their last hour, so they don't die being frightened and scared, right? Which I think is honorable because we can't do anything to stop this. I'm gonna make sure that your last minutes on Earth are as peaceful as possible. It just reminded me of that moment of like reading and like stories, and it's like yes, Magneto couldn't save this kid, but he just tried to make it like don't be like I think when Magneto said don't be afraid, it's like don't worry, like I'm with you, even though they know they're both gonna die. It just kind of reminded me of that thing. It just so happens that Magneto happens also to be Jewish, so it was just an insane scene with everything I've known, like and everything I've read about, which it was just I thought it was amazing. I thought it was amazing. So
yeah, and then you hear the Master Mold just plainly says Omega level mutant terminated.
yeah, and so you know that they died, and he couldn't save the kid, but at least he gave the kid peace before death. So that which is counts. Yeah.
So once the Master Mold turns its attention to the roof where all the most of the mutant are hanging out there. So Gambit, he takes the bike and so Rogue is trying to go and deal with it himself, but what Gambit does is he drives the bike and then he supercharges the bike so that it hits Rogue, so it knocks her off course, so that Gambit could go up on his own and try to fight the Master Mold himself.
Yeah,
and then the name is
Gambit
Gambit.
also,
then
he also has one of his legendary phrases. He says like I'm Gambit, mon ami. The cards forever be in my favor. And he launches off the ground with his legendary staff. And you think he's about to do something, right? And I think at this point, I think Gambit knew he was gonna die. So he tried to save his woman, like both. It's funny because both of the men that loved her, like saved her, right? And he's about to try to attack, and he gets stabbed in the body with a tentacle from the Master Mold thingy, right?
Yeah.
And then like the Master Mold's kind of like you think it's one, right? And then you see his blood leak onto the thing, onto the little tentacle thingy.
Because he said mutant neutralized.
Yeah, mutant neutralized. Yeah. So then you see Gambit like laugh and smirk, like this is my plan all along. Because if you know anything about Gambit, he has to physically make contact with stuff in order to charge it with his kinetic energy for it to explode, right?
Yeah.
So his blood is touching the thing, so he can charge his blood, which then supercharges the robot and then blows the robot up. And it's like Gambit knew it's like, so in that moment, it's like Gambit, I know I'm gonna die because I'm not gonna be able to destroy this on my own. Like I'm not that strong, right? Not yet. He's gonna be stronger, but not yet, right? We're gonna talk about when he's the horse rider of death. We're gonna talk about the horse rider of death. We'll get to that. But the fact that he just decides like I'm gonna go out my own way. I already had my own way with Rogue, where she was messing with my emotions. I won't go out my own way. Magneto went out his own way, tried to give that kid peace in his last hours. I'm going to do my thing. And he ended up saving, like, there was a lot of mutants that died, but he ended up saving him. I think that's why people like that just, like, I'm not going to lie, I teared up a little bit. That episode got a little bit, like the corner of my eye. Like, I'm not sweet.
Gambit is one of my top 5 Marvel characters. Yeah.
Yeah, so how'd you feel about that scene when he sacrificed himself?
Or both was really, yeah, it's like I obviously like with this being they both did something that prevented Rogue from trying to do it herself, where Magneto literally straps them to like with a metal casing so that when the laser hits, like it's not gonna affect them. So you got to also factor that Magneto is like using his power to protect Rogue and Gambit while also trying to protect the people, like the kid in the bubble and the Morlocks in the bubble. So it's like he's putting up a lot of his energy towards different aspects to protect as many people as he could. So there's that. And then obviously like Gambit like willingly choosing to knock Rogue off of her course in flight so that she can be incapacitated, so that when he goes to make the final play, she can't do anything. So yeah, it's a lot in this moment. Yeah, that's why it's like remember it is the best episode for me in this series, in the season.
Another thing, which after all this, like to just solidify it, is when Rogue touches him with her bare hands and says, "I can't feel you anymore, Remy." She can't feel any of his energy or like any of his powers, which is just like he's truly dead. Like now
Yeah.
we don't see Magneto somewhere off screen. It's assumed Magneto is dead, but we're gonna figure out he's not. But whatever. But it he's dead. He basically became like he basically suicided bombed himself to save everybody. So
Yeah. Yeah. But it leads to Life Death Part 2.
this
Now,
episode, oh my god, I'm sorry, so
yeah.
another one of my the favorite lines of this show is when Storm said when Storm was debating with the adversary whether people would accept her and if I even wanted to be accepted and what's my life without being Storm, and then she just says fuck all that shit, let them thunder for I am lightning. That is one of the that like that scene, and then she like gets the new suit and the new hair. That scene is just like I feel like that scene is like legendary. So
Yeah.
I had to
I,
go. Yes.
yeah. It's it's iconic from Life Death. I think one of my big things with
Where would it be, man? It's in the microwave. Yes, I cooked the
throwback to
rice for
YB
you.
podcast days. But yeah. Yeah.
So
But yeah. Yeah, Life Death, very good storyline. I'd highly recommend it for anybody who wants to read about Storm. It's obviously it's not like a introduction to Storm, but like it gets you a good idea of who Storm is as a character. Uh, I really like that storyline, and I think like the episode does do like like these lines are like really nice, and obviously like you know Bodemeo talked about how it was kind of inspired by like the first flight of Man of Steel, that scene. So when Storm starts to fly, that's kind of the other thing when we were talking about '90s versus '97 shows. It's like the animation style is like very different between the two. So it's like you can't. So like when you're back in the 1990s, you're not kind of expecting this kind of animation level um, with the characters or stuff like that. I mean, you wouldn't even expect whatever happened in episode 5 with Genosha happening in that show because that was like back in the time when like it was like Saturday morning cartoon for kids. So this is like more, you know, you can see more blood and things like that here nowadays. But yeah, that's just like comparing the two projects. Um, yeah, this is also the episode where they split the things with the Shire and Kree empires, um, which my whole thing is like I just wish it didn't they didn't use both the Storm plot line and like this thing, but like I already mentioned that my issue with that before. Um, so yeah, but yeah,
I think
basically
the whole
on hmm?
no, go ahead, go ahead. My fault.
Yeah, it's just like so back on with the Shire, they're basically having a so basically Xavier is healed now from dying, I guess, back from the original show. Um, he's trying to marry Lilandra, but her sister Deathbird is not really happy with that because he should be marrying somebody from Earth. Uh, Lilandra's like saying like he's not like a normal person. He goes through a lot of problems in his planet as well, so there's no reason for him to go back or anything like that. But Xavier's having his own doubts because he does want to go back home and make a visit, but like the problem with Deathbird's like thing is like if you go back, it's like you're proving that you're not loyal to our empire and that kind of thing. So he's not really sure what to do. He puts like the entire facility in an astral like memory. I mean like like in his
Yeah.
head basically. Um,
I think I like that moment because it was like I'm fucking Charles Xavier. He said I for like some of the dialogue in the show you could say it's corny, but it's like I just feel like it's legendary. Like he said, like I forgot my greatest gift. I am a teacher. I'm also a psychic, and he puts them in the astral project. And like even like characters like who was his name? Who's the guy that needs the purpose? And he's like Superman, the Superman counterpart that needs a purpose.
Oh, Gladiator.
Yeah, Gladiator. Like he puts all these really strong characters in like his what is it called? He said
In
it what it was.
in the
Astral
classroom.
projection zone, whatever. Like
Yeah.
the astral projection zone, and like people are like he's forcing them to pay attention and listen, and he's forcing them to learn about each other from each other, and like we're not that bad. It just seemed like it's kind of weak, but it's also like Xavier is still like that guy. Like
Yeah. And then he sees a vision that something terrible happened on Earth that he can't like he sees like Genosha happen on Earth, which I'm not too sure how that happened. But I guess like through some psychic link he was able to see that. So
well,
that
I mean, we
solidify that
figure
he
out
had to go back to Earth for sure.
we figure out that when they go back to Genosha that Emma Frost is still alive because of her diamond form. So she's psychic. So maybe I don't know. There's a possibility. Maybe she saw it, or maybe or maybe because you remember they were trying to get him to forget the X-Men. Maybe he was always connected to the X-Men on Earth. So
Feeling like they got it by
yeah,
now. They should be getting it by now, but they didn't.
They-
Which
yeah.
is weird,
They're
but
also
that's
yeah.
kind of true.
Well, because Lalandra, like the woman that's like loves him, she's talking about sometimes in order to prove you're a good teacher, is your student have to go on without you.
Yeah.
Like, so he I don't think he believed that they were ready. So it was just funny, but
Yeah.
because then why are you like
5 seasons,
why you
5 years.
why are
Still
you
not
playing
ready.
house? Why are you playing house with a bird woman in like space? I don't know if you don't think they're ready. I don't know, but they also get a hint because we see all the people that die, and we see Gambit die, and we see him as we see him with the crossbones in pink, and like the last time we saw like that is a hint that what you call it, he's gonna be a horseman of death because he's kind of like the horseman of death look. So
You see, you also see it. The way he saw it is like he saw the Gambit as a giant turn into a skeleton. Then the whole classroom was turned to skeleton. Then the visualizations have been really top notch. That abstract concept arts that are really cool. So yeah, back on Earth, you have that's basically the rest of the storm story where they have to find this cactus that can cure the poison that Forge has on his shoulder. This is so he uses a book that to put the adversary in it. Kind of use like Doctor Strange magic. I'm not really sure about that, but it worked. I mean, they said it was his mother's spell book, so I guess it's that. But yeah, then we talked about the rest of Storm's conversation with the adversary while she's trying to go up and get the plant, and so yeah, the array was not permanent from episode 2. It was more like she was mentally blocking herself at the same time. So yeah, she overcomes her fears, and then she heals Forge, and then they both learn about the attack on Genosha. And then basically that's kind of where the episode ends, where Trask is confronted by Mr. Sinister, who is saying that Genosha was just the beginning. And yeah, that's there's one more episode before it goes into the 3-part finale.
Wait, did we miss a part? Because in Monami, wasn't there like a post-credit scene with Bastion?
I think it was in this one.
Okay. My fault.
The 7th episode. Yeah. The 7th episode, Bright Eyes. So this is like right after so this is like the funeral for Gambit. Rogue didn't attend the ceremony because she is angrily searching for Garage and Trask. So you got a lot of Easter eggs in this one. First, like they go to the U.S. military base, and Thunderbolt Ross is there guarding Trask, who apparently escaped. Um,
They also Thunderbolt Ross because she's trying to break in because she stole Mrs. Marvel's powers, and he's like, "This place can handle the Hulk. I don't know how she's gonna break it," and she breaks in. It's hilarious. I'm not gonna lie.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, then they get information from Thunderbolt Ross. Then she goes off to Mexico, where she gets an interaction with Captain America. And then so the thing I found weird was like Captain America threw the shield at her feet. It's like that's not. You shouldn't do a warning shot with your shield like that because like the shield is only effective when you hit the person, it comes right back to you. If you throw it at her feet, then she has your shield and like your protection. So it's like,
Well,
it's kind of,
I mean, to be fair, like, so that's the thing. So this kind of like with Captain America, like he has an innate sense of.
Yeah.
No, the thing. So he has an innate sense of justice. So because he even says the tragedy that happened on Genosha is insane. So that's why I kind of like, unlike Batman. Oh my god! But like, unlike Batman, I know you like Batman, but it's like unlike Batman, like Captain America is by the rules, but I think he threw it because he didn't actually want to hurt her. He knows Rogue has done so much stuff with the X-Men and saved the planet however many times, and he knows that you're hurting and your anger is understood. Because the only reason they figured out about Genosha is because of the UN. So somebody in the UN is bad, which he knows, and he does work for the government and stuff like that. So it's like Captain America is like a soldier, so he understands. Like he's like a soldier, but he's not like a sped soldier. He's like an emotionally intelligent soldier. Like he knows they did you fucked up, they did your people bad, wrong, whatever you want to fucking say. That's why I don't. That's why I don't think because he could have hit her. He could have snuck. He could have sneak attacked her because he's got more training than her, better fighting skills. He could have snuck attacked her. I don't think he wanted to actually because I think he knows that the mutants and are in pain and they can be angry. Like because any human would be angry if all you wanted to do was be left alone and live your life, and people just won't allow you to do that.
Yeah. So one big thing about so this is like a bit of a plot thing with regards to the '90s show. In the '90s show, Captain America was actually stuck in a Phantom Zone with Red Skull for like a fight in eternity, basically, where they would they're basically trapped somewhere in time where they would consistently fight no matter what. So as far as our knowledge, we don't know how he got out of that. Now there is like a secret wars kind of thing in Spider-Man as well, where 5 Spider-Mans plus like the Fantastic Four, Captain America, and some other characters come in and help fight there. So now they kind of said that Captain America is not the one from Peter Parker's universe, where in the Spider-Man show, that's the one that got trapped in time. They got a different one, but I guess they could just say that wasn't the case and just say that was the Madam Web probably just got him out of the time vortex thing. But yeah, that's just kind of like a plot thing with regards to the '90s shows that wasn't really adding up. I mean, another discussion point that people were having is like people found this like, it's convenient that you don't want to help the mutants. That kind of conversation. I mean, I feel like Captain America didn't really say anything wrong. He gave proper advice, and like I mean, he was just saying, "I'm not going to be the guy to go down to Mexico and just barge in and fight without like a warrant or anything like that. So it wouldn't be by the books." Which is like, people compare him to MCU Captain America because MCU Captain America would do whatever he wants, doesn't care about the rules, kind of thing. Whereas like Captain America in the show and mainly in comics, like he does care about the rules as much as he has to.
But I feel like this is like more realistic. This is why I kind of like Batman. Like sometimes you have to break the rules, bro. Especially if both you niggas live by justice. Like I say niggas, like justice isn't always like legally because there are people that'll get away with unjust things and it's like legal that they got away with stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah, I feel like the thing is like they're both like they both want to take down uh Gyrich. It's just that Rogue's way about going about it and his way about going about it is different. But it's like, he's not stopping her either. He even told her like where to find him. Uh, and then like that's just the whole thing. Is like, will you help me or not? To be fair, she doesn't really need his help. Um, but then again, it's like with Cap, it's like I feel like with his ideologies, like it makes sense for his character as to why he wouldn't. He's just not MCU Cap, which is what I think people are not understanding. Comic Cap and MCU Cap are pretty different in their ways of going about fighting. So I think that's why people are having that discourse. But yeah, then she throws his shield uh, into the mountains, which
Yeah.
sure, I guess. So yeah, so Rogue does find Gyrich in Mexico and tries to absorb his memories. Um, she didn't really get what she was looking for, which it turns out Gyrich was like, well, we don't actually figure out what happened there later. But they do need to go to Madripoor to find Trask, which because Trask sends like a message out to them saying like he's like really terrified of what happened with Geonosia and all that stuff. So they all go over. There's a side plot of Roberto and Jubilee talking to his mom about how she's a mutant and that she already knew that. Uh, Not really much to say. Yeah, in Madripoor though, the X Men learned that Sinister is was teamed up with these guys, and they were working on a secret OZT division, which is a highly advanced Sentinel program. Uh, and Rogue, so Trask wants to commit suicide. Rogue tries to grab onto him just to say what else he wants to say. He doesn't say what she wants him to say, so she drops him. Uh, so yeah, but it turns out that didn't kill Trask because Trask is apparently a Prime Sentinel, and yeah, they so it turns out somebody has been activating using civilians to become human Sentinel
Yeah, human and
hybrids.
sentinel, like basically sleeper agents for the
Yeah,
anti-mutant agenda, and this is where they end up basically like the this human sentinel can like absorb powers and is like extremely durable, and he's like we're gonna have to go all out, and nothing basically nothing they do works, but then we see the prodigal son returns and Cable, aka Nate comes back and he has like some type of EMP pulse grenade or something like that that shuts the Sentinel down or something like that. So and then basically like he Nate gives the whole breakdown of like what these things are and how dangerous they are and like you got to stop them and like I've never been able to stop the future and then they take over stuff basically stuff of that nature, right?
yeah,
And then so it ends, and then it opens. It's like the post credit scene is where we learn who's truly behind this stuff, right? So we see Sinister, we see some other dude, which I think somebody ends up dying or whatever, right? And then we end up seeing Bastion, and it's like Bastion is like some weird thing. Like the music, also the music in the show is extremely like crazy. Like I think it's the pink purple people eaters or something like that. It's like the pink purple people eaters or something like that, right? Or the purple people eaters or something like that. And it's just an eerie ass song, and it's like an old timey like barbershop, and like he goes to some back room of the barbershop, and there's like Magneto tied up in a chair, so Magneto didn't die, and he's like putting like shaving cream on his face and shaving Magneto's beard because he's obviously been there a long time. It's just weird as shit. This is our first introduction to like Bash.
Bastion.
Yeah, and it's just eerie and weird as shit. Like, why you have Magneto just tied up in this room, and why are you shaving his beard? Like, and then why is the purple people eaters like just like the little? I don't know. Like, how do you feel about that? Like,
So yeah, obviously. So my only thing is like, so Bastion is revealed at the end of episode 7. He doesn't really become anything until the last 3 episodes, which I guess is like you're putting the villain in the last phase of the story, which I wish like there was more development on that side. Uh, Another thing that I was like, well, obviously the whole Magneto thing was weird. Um, I also just like had the question like, how did Magneto survive? They never really answered that question. Um, but I think one of my bigger ones is like, you got things like Bastion murders Gyrich. He
yeah,
reveals to Mr. Sinister that Xavier is alive in space. I'm not sure how he knows this information. So there's like a few things that I have questions about. Sebastian is kind of like where my thoughts on the show is like kind of dwindling a little bit, I would say.
my whole thing was like, so I think Magneto lived because he's gonna do something which is gonna turn, it's gonna like really like ignite the planet, which was the EMP. Like I think he saved him. I think this is the reason that he saved him and didn't save Gambit. I think he saved him personally to where because he knew what Magneto was gonna do when he got pushed to that limit. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I can see that. I just wish it was explained, but yeah. Um, that leads us to our last 3 episodes, the tolerance of extinction.
Tolerance is extinction or something like that.
Yeah. So it is a 3-parter. Part 1, the UN reveals the world that Xavier's alive. Now people are questioning this entire thing with the mutants in general. It's like, did the mutants pretend that Xavier was not alive so that they could garner sympathy points and all that stuff, which is crazy.
Yeah, no, but it's like it's crazy, but it's just funny. This is why you could draw some of your comparisons, like just because one thing is like fraudulent, like so. For instance, like like they and
Yeah,
as a black man, they kind of try to do this with the Black Lives Matter movement. Like, did you hear about the Black Lives Matter movement and how it was kind of a scam?
yeah,
And then you had a lot of people on the other side talking about like, so is like the police brutality thing like a real thing, like the George Floyd thing a real thing? Like, it's just nasty. It's just nasty as shit. Because so they were trying to push the whole narrative that the fucking that did Genosha even really happen or something like that. It's just nasty, bro. Like, which
yeah,
is it's crazy because you would say like people are not that like gullible or like hating to do that, but we've seen this stuff actually happen in the real world. Where yes, people have like scammed like tragedy for money, right? People have definitely done that, right? That doesn't mean these tragedies and atrocities don't happen. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah. So that was like other things that like so yeah, you this is like this is kind of like your rolling effect here, like where mutants lost a lot of human support. Not just after Genosha's, like there was like some attempts to like, oh, maybe there's like I do feel bad that these people or these things, I guess, died and all that. It's like I guess we could like feel bad for that, but then it's like, oh, now that Xavier's out in space and alive, I don't feel bad anymore. I guess that's how it works. But yeah,
you know because it basically
well,
ends
yeah,
up
I
like
understand what you're saying.
no because it's basically the similar because they're believing because they said he died, this guy only tried to help us, so maybe they're not that bad, Genosha happened, maybe they're not that bad, right? But when you figure out that he's not really dead, you're like, so they lied about that, or you're thinking they lied about that, or maybe they lied about that, and so like
I
also
mean,
so
you got
they
people who
must have
think
lied
the
about that.
Holocaust wasn't real, so like, I don't know what
That
to say.
that's there though
I'm just
because they think stuff like this. So yeah.
yeah, I understand. Yeah. So Cable is kind of explaining to the X-Men as to things that are uh, going on. So Wolverine gets mad to a point. It's like, if you have this like time travel tech, why don't you stop the Genosha massacre from happening? And later, Cable reveals how many times he's tried to
What do you
stop
say,
this.
2000?
200 times,
Oh,
but still a
200.
lot. Yeah. Yeah, so he tried to stop it 200 times, but because it's an absolute point in time, he was not able
Wait,
to
wait,
do it.
wait, wait, wait. I
Yes,
gotta
they
put
used the Doctor Strange.
no, not the Doctor Strange. The Spider Man song. The Spider.
Absolute,
So it's a canon event.
it's a canon event, yeah.
It's like you need to have sound. I'm gonna find it. I'm gonna find it. Like so.
Yeah.
The, I gotta find this. It's gonna be peak. It's gonna be peak. So what you're saying? Wait. So what you're
Oh,
saying is. So what you're saying is it's a canon event.
yeah, yeah, I suppose, yeah. Yeah, so it's an absolute point in time, canon event, cannot be changed. And yeah. So basically he says that Bastion is going to use this Genosha attack to start a 300-year war that will lead to eventual enslavement of mutants and a human utopia. Um, so the team splits up. Well, one, Xavier comes back, and obviously, like Scott is not happy. Um, you left us out there. You didn't help us. Things happened. Bad things happened, and things are getting better. And obviously, like Xavier really doesn't have anything to say. Um, oh wait, no, this is he comes back in part 2, I think. Yeah, he came back in part 2. This part is like, oh yeah, so they split up. Cyclops, Jean, and Cable goes to the house where they learn that Bastion was a human machine hybrid. He was born because his father was infected by some advanced time traveling sentinel by Nimrod. And then he basically had all these visions of like the Operation Zero Tolerance. Uh, you know, they right, what else happened? So that they asked like so Operation like Zero Tolerance. They asked like Dr. Cooper to monitor Bastion, and then he explains how he's turning humans into prime sentinels like Trask, and uses like Sinister's techno organic virus as a way to help him do that. And then basically they activate this. They basically activate this sentinel. Oh, Shaq is out for now, but he'll be back in a few minutes. But yeah, basically they activate the Sentinel, um, human Sentinel stuff, and they start attacking around the world. And they attack mutants. They burn down Xavier's school. Uh, Dr. Cooper, she obviously scared of everything that's going on. She releases Magneto from his shackles, which gets him to essentially black out the entire planet, to turn off all the sentinels, to turn off all the electricity, to turn off all connections. You have some nice moments here with the small moments like so one thing that didn't really make too much sense to me was like Rogue. Rogue was the one who got knocked out, but Morph got hit by the same laser that Trask Sentinel hit, and he didn't get knocked out. So I'm not really sure how that worked. Though I do like the part where Nightcrawler has to protect Rogue from the Sentinels, and she's essentially like, I mean, Nightcrawler and Wolverine are essentially doing a mix of their hack and slash, and Nightcrawler's using swords with his tail and 2 hands, and yeah, they're basically fighting back to back. And then they do a cool thing with the animation, like where you see it in Wolverine's perspective of being involved in a BAMF. where they both interlock with the enemy, and they both like go through the BAMF, and you see that perspective of them going through it and then coming out of it. So I thought that was really cool in terms of an animation perspective. And yeah, once Magneto is like released, uh, it kills thousands of people and shuts down all of the Prime Sentinels. And because of this, Wolverine fears that Magneto has declared war on the planet, and this is like where you really feel like you need Charles Xavier. And who shows up later? That happens to be Charles Xavier. He comes back from the Shire Empire, and now he is back on Earth because of everything going on. That leads to the second part, which is so you have some drama here going on. Like Xavier is met with some distrust. The X-Men, but they want to focus more on stopping Bastion, and they need to convince Magneto to reverse his blackout. So at this point, Magneto reestablishes his mutant haven on Asteroid M. That's something that we've seen in the original show as well. So he's choosing to leave Earth without power and rejects Xavier's dream of a mutant-human coexistence at this point. So eventually Magneto does come down to the ground and like has a conversation with Xavier. But yeah, because of everything that's happened, Magneto just refuses to accept his thing as real anymore. So what he decides to do is that the mutants basically he invites the X-Men to join him, which at this point Rogue and Roberto do. And this is the part where I kind of lost everything for Rogue in terms of this season, because Rogue is just like so Magneto, his action killed thousands of people, and this EMP that he's trying to do is like, you know, it's not killing humans, it's not killing animals only, it's killing mutants as well. But even if I ignore that, it's like there's not enough logic as to why Rogue would feel like she should be on Magneto's side after everything that's happened. But even if I ignore that, I still don't really understand why Rogue would essentially think Magneto's like principle of like let's essentially do a genocide back is like something that she would do. It's like, and I get it, it's like she's obviously like confused with the whole processing grief thing. I mean, the show has other characters say it like a few times, that she doesn't know how to exactly feel post Gambit's death. But it's like at the same time, it's like, do you expect Gambit to agree with what Magneto is doing? I just don't really see that through line. And then as for like Sunspot, I mean, I've mentioned my problems with Sunspot. It looks like Shaq has to step out. That's all right. I just kind of finished my thoughts on the rest of the season. So yeah, Sunspot, I think like he's just completely underdeveloped as a whole. So I kind of have an issue with like his. So it's like when he was barely a mutant, like he was barely like a member of the X-Men in that sense. So it's like I don't really feel anything when he decides to go, oh, I don't want to be on this team. I want to be with Magneto. And then it's like you have a explanation that like apparently when the Sentinels came after him and Jubilee at their party with his mom was like, yeah, you could take him. So yeah, no sympathy, no, that's my son. Uh, none of that. So it's like, so that's his justification as to joining Magneto, which okay, I guess. I still feel like we're lacking in terms of like substance as to. I just but like Sunspot was never really on the team, so it's like with him going on to Magneto's team, not really much to say. But yeah, it's like with Rogue, it's like I don't really understand. It's not enough logic in my opinion. Um, yeah, so outside of that, you got other things going on, like Cyclops' blue team goes to Asteroid M to confront Magneto, while Storm and Jean's gold team would head over to Bastion's hideout, uh, hideout in the Galapagos Islands. Beast and Forge, they create a collar that can block Bastion's technopathy, and it can sever his control over the Sentinels. And the gold team, they battle an army of Bastion controlled Sentinels as well as Sinister, who takes control of Cable's mind at one point and uses him to overpower Jean. And she sends a psychic message to Cyclops during their fight. And on Asteroid M, it appeared that Jean died, uh, quote unquote, because like this is like your second act low point kind of thing, where characters are losing, things are happening. Wolverine is trying to fight Magneto. Gets to a point where he does stab Magneto in the back, but in this point, they use the adamantium metal. So he basically like uses it to pull the skeleton out of his body, which is the image in the image. Um, yeah, so obviously your inspiration of fatal, fatal, what was it? Fatal Attractions, right? The 30th anniversary of the X-Men, I think. So yeah, it's a neat moment, I guess. But yeah, there's a few things going on that I don't really have too much to say. Uh, those of you that are back, Shaq had to step out due to his computer overheating, which is all right. Uh, so yeah, that's kind of how part two ends, and then part three is basically you have like the Sentinels basically attacking more people across the planet. Now you have like cameos of like other characters. Those like you see Daredevil, you see uh, Captain America and Iron Man, you see Cloak and Dagger, and then you see Black Panther. Um, so I have a few things to say with regards to that, but I'll get to that when we get to more of the substance related to that. Um, so yeah, in the last part with with this episode, basically you have things like that. So here's a few things. So Rogue and Sunspot are just back on the X-Men team as if nothing happened. Uh, so it's like I don't really feel like I like I felt that's where I felt like in these last two episodes in particular, like I feel like something was missing. Rogan Roberto are just like back on the team after like this whole thing of like let me join Magneto side, but because Wolverine got his skeleton pulled out, it's like oh no, I need to be an X-Men again. There's no like confrontation or like a realization as I did something wrong or anything like that. That's why I feel like there's like either scenes or like an episode missing or something. If that makes any sense. Um, as for like the other aspect of this episode, you have so as I mentioned, it seemed like Cable killed Jean, but it turns out that apparently she has like the Phoenix in her, so that like made her reborn and use the Phoenix Force to essentially super mop the floor with Bastion and Mr. Sinister and all that. Which I don't know. I have no idea if that's how that works. She could just literally die, drown, and like just be reborn by a phoenix. So like I don't really know about that. Um, but yeah, that just happens. And then she places a collar. She places that collar on Bastion. That basically restores the Prime Sentinel's humanities and reverses the Sinister. And then she also reverses like Mr. Sinister's mutant augmentations, which frees Cable from her grasp. Um, that also makes like Mr. Sinister look young again, or I mean, look old again. Um, so yeah, um, then the X-Men have to keep fighting uh, to prevent Bastion from trying to crash asteroid M into the Earth and cause a extinction. But it turns out that even after their fight with even after their fight, the humans they still send missiles using the Magneto project to send missiles up to asteroid M and try to bring the asteroid down, hoping to destroy it. And and like that one mention I talked about with like apparently King T'Chaka, because apparently the Black Panther of this universe is King T'Chaka, and I really hate that. I hate that a lot. Like you see people talking about, oh, the MCU is like set in the 90s, like that's who the 90s Black Panther was. This show is not set in this show is not set in the MCU, so I don't want to hear that. Secondly, you have a universe where you have characters like Spider-Man in the 90s, you have all these other characters, you have fucking Cloak and Dagger in the show, but you can not say that like Black Panther was T'Challa. You have to use T'Chaka. That doesn't make any sense to me. Not just that. Why'd you have to name him? That's the part I don't understand. Is like, why'd you have to name him as King T'Chaka? You could have just left it at Black Panther. You didn't have to tell me Steve Rogers was Captain America or Iron Man was Tony Stark. Yeah, chosen. Shaq's computer overheated, so he has to step out for the rest of the night. I apologize for that. Yeah, but yeah, that's just kind of my thing. Like I don't know, but apparently the show was like written during the time where like they were still deciding about what to do with Black Panther, especially after post Chadwick Boseman's death, and rest in peace to him, of course. But I don't know. I still feel like killing off T'Challa in everything or like in most mediums now is like it's just like really stupid in my opinion. Um, and it's like for me, it's like King T'Chaka being the guy is like it's like making Uncle Ben Spider Man or something like that. So I find it stupid. But yeah, I would have rather they had Black Bolt and the Inhumans at that rate if they really were so scared of putting T'Challa as Black Panther. Then I can't mention the Fantastic Four cartoon for some reason because apparently that's not canon because of some book. I don't know how that works, but okay. Um, but yeah, yeah, it was definitely cooked. Shaq used to have this problem a lot on our old podcast, but yeah, it's all right. Uh, he had a lot of insightful takes on the show. Um, but yeah, essentially that's kind of how. So yeah, mutants are still being attacked. Humans still don't really trust the mutants, regardless of if they're trying to help or not. We talked about the whole interview thing when like they were trying to have a conversation uh, with the people about you know what happened with Genosha, and Cyclops get mad to the point where he's you know saying like, this one person is like gonna want to deliver my baby just because he was a mutant. Like, it's fucking insane. It's like, I do so much to protect this planet, to save your lives. You should be grateful, but like, you're not. And he lost his cool and all that. And then obviously, like, you have other conversations, like other news articles, like talking about uh, trying to get Beast's perspective on the genocide and all this stuff. So, I mean, there's a lot of like journalism focused in the show as well, which I like. I like some of these aspects to make it feel more lived in, hearing perspectives from other sides and other points of views. Um, but yeah, so during this entire thing, Xavier is like. So they also do another weird thing where they say that Xavier needs him to remove the helmet from Magneto's head, otherwise, so that he can use the psychic attack on him. So that is not that was not canon to the '90s animated show, because that was not canon to the comics either during the time. The whole part where the where the helmet is blocking psychic attacks, that only happened in the movies, the Foxverse movies. That did not happen in the cartoon. So there is some synergizing with like the content and making it more relevant to current audience. But yeah, that which is, it's weird because like an episode, I think it's episode 3 of the entire show, uh, including the OG. You literally see Xavier put Magneto under his attack with the helmet on, and for a lot of people that was weird. Like, it's weird to see that now, because like you're so associated with the helmet should block mental attacks because of the movies, that once it happens in the cartoon, you realize that wasn't what it was back then. But yeah, it's just things that don't really add up, things like that. But yeah, they do have to remove the helmet now because that's the rule. So they remove the helmet, and then Xavier basically goes through his mind and just essentially forces a whole psychic attack to the point where Magneto can't remember who he is. And Xavier's like, keeping him there so that he can like essentially make him more nice, in that sense. So they do have that conversation, that heart to heart sense, using their friendship to really build on that. Um, but yeah, yeah. So basically, it gets to a point where they have this tension. Um, Now Wolverine is back in the medical bay after his like injuries. There was that other thing that Shaq was mentioning before, how um, Morph turns into Jean and says that they love him. So it's not really too much to say on that. It's all right. It's not really built up. I'd say it's like kind of fine. But yeah, then you have essentially the mutants go up into space, and then because like Magneto's basically pulling the asteroid back up into space, but before anything could happen, the asteroid completely disappears out of thin air, and turns out after a few months later, Ford is looking for the mutants, but they can't find them. It turns out that the mutants were sent across time, where Cyclops and Jean were sent to 3960 AD, where they meet Mother Escani and a young Nathan. And Rogue, Nightcrawler, Beast, Xavier, and Magneto were sent to ancient Egypt back in 3000 BC, where they meet Sabanur, a young version of Apocalypse. And then we also talked about the mid-credit scene where Apocalypse finds one of Gambit's playing cards in present-day Genosha, which is a reference to probably the Dark Horse thing with Gambit. So yeah, that concludes everything about the show. And I will say, I liked the show until it got towards episode 6, I would say. And I'm going to turn off my cam for now. But yeah, I just like I feel like it could have been better. In my opinion, I do like a lot of ideas in the show, but I think some of the problems came down to there was too much happening for 10 episodes, and maybe it could have been better if there was like the original 13, 15 episodes if they were to have that. But you know, I still feel like when people say that, it's like you have to think about time limits and time constrictions are always a thing in any job. You just have to know how to prioritize yourself. Like, is there enough time to really dedicate my ideas into this? Maybe, maybe not. But like, I feel like you should have that kind of balance or like that sort of idea when you are trying to write something like this. Another thing that another thing like if you were to use like comics or anything like that, there's like plenty of references like that I'm familiar with, like Trials of Magneto, Life Death, Inferno, E is for Extinction, Operation Zero Tolerance, Age of Apocalypse, anything with N sub Manure and all that stuff. So it's like there's a lot of storylines here, but like I feel like you could use. I feel like some of these could have expanded for like 2, 3 parters, or like some of them could have been a whole season if they were to dedicate it to that. So I feel like having some of these plot lines and putting them into this one season was kind of a lot. Now season two, like I know there's like a whole thing with the whole director change and all that stuff. So we have no idea if things are going to be different moving forward or like if it's going to be the same quality. But yeah, my overall thoughts is like I feel like it was like rushed towards like especially towards the second half of the show. My favorite episode is episode 5 of Remember It. But yeah, that's essentially my thoughts. Shaq is a lot more positive about the show in general. There was a conversation earlier asking like what would you prefer? I still prefer Invincible over X-Men 97, but I still like X-Men 97. It's just like there are just some things like if you factor in the 90s show canon plus like whatever's happening in this show, plus like how much material they're going through and how much of it actually gets paid off, it's just like it's okay. Is my final conclusion. But yeah, I would like to thank again Shaq from Trikage. Uh, Again, he's one of my best friends from college. I absolutely love having him on my channel, and he's always welcome to be here. Um, Trikage is getting close to 1K subs. I'm personally on the road for 1K subs too. So if you're interested in any thoughts on movies, comics, TV shows, and video games, I love talking about that stuff. If you guys love to hear about that stuff, consider subscribing. Also, my good friend Unity Review and Analysis, my co-host for another Reviews Corp podcast. He is another great channel to look through for that kind of content related to movie media, music, anything. Usually he has those conversations as well. Those links will be in the description down below. Also subscribe to another Reviews Corp podcast. That's where we archive these streams on that channel the next day. And yeah, also check out our Spotify, and we will see you next time. Goodbye, everybody, and good night.